common in the last Moonspell releases.
What can the fans expect from the new Night Eternal album?
Well, it's definitely a pure and has a very strong aspect to it in terms of lyric content and the direction that they were written in. And Fernando, of course, is always the best person to explain his views on his lyrics and how he came up with them. As a band member, we can only be side by side with him and get little by little, stuff that he's creating, and somehow, come up with something that completes all of us. And in terms of my own interpretation, I definitely feel that this is the album that, the most, how can I say it, close to what we all definitely need of more these days, and that's like being closer to what matters and to things that you actually love and make you want to continue having a nice adventure in this life while you can. And all those aspects are definitely around the kind of world we live in and what we have to put up with in this day and age. And slowly by slowly, the most enjoyable and beautiful things that surround us are being destroyed by our own destruction and our own greed and our own self-involvement and individuality and lack of, kindness to others and to, things that are grander than ourselves, grander than, your bank account, or if you have a new telephone or a new car. And of course all these things are nice to have and cool, but, I think that's not the point. And I think we're all, disrupting, where we live. And this album has a lot of those feelings of love and hate towards, what we're all feeling in this chaotic time. And it's always been a kind of a Moonspell subject, but this album is definitely, a very female interpreted and seen on the way where not only the female as, our earth, but also as the women in our lives, the way they've been, dealt with and treated throughout all these centuries, and the way that they're still seen in today's age, in religion and in the workplace, and on the street when you just see a hot girl and you just say something nasty to her and don't even care for her feelings, and just because you can, just because you're a man and you're tough. And these, of course, not all women are perfect, but definitely coming from a Latin country and having a more male, presence around us all our lives, it's something that we, have to talk about and have to get out of our systems and try to do, what we can to make these little things change.
How did the recording process for Night Eternal go?
Well, because of Under Satanai, we didn't have much time to prepare for this album, so it was a lot of each one doing his own, the best to his ability. And I myself was rehearsing the songs like every day in the morning with the computer, just trying to get enough physical energy, to get into the studio and do everything like as powerful and fast and dynamic as possible, like if it was a concert, and not so much lay around the studio and do nothing and take forever to do the drum tracks, because we don't have much time or much budget, and we like to do the albums fast to keep them fresh. So this is really important. Pedro and Ricardo were doing keyboards because we had a few weeks after doing Under Satanai and that big Coliseum show in Portugal, that they had to be concentrated on creating keyboard parts and atmospheres, and that was a very interesting process. But like I said, they didn't have much time. Pedro had to do the female vocals in our studio, so he was very busy with that. Fernando was definitely, with all his notes, around him and all his thoughts of how he was going to do the vocals. But I had never had the opportunity to actually practice or try it out with the band. And we never actually rehearsed together for this new album. Never rehearsed the songs together until we got to the studio and each one started to record, and we slowly saw the album being completed, kind of like a puzzle. And finally, we saw the face of this puzzle after maybe the second or third week, after everything was recorded. And I think that was pretty interesting for a band that released their ninth album. It was kind of like a surprise for ourselves.
Do you plan on doing any full tours in the near future?
Well, we're definitely trying to book as many tours as possible. So far, we just know about some tours that are going to happen at the end of this year in Europe. I'm not sure if I can still talk about that, but there definitely will be something. And for the States, we also talked about going in the fall, but there hasn't been any interesting tours so far. But it's still early, we're 2 months and a half, I think, before the release of the album, or 2 months before the release of the album. So a lot also changes when the album comes out, and we get better, proposals. But so far we have already some cool festivals for Europe, and we're also going to play Rock in Rio in Lisbon again, and it's going to be with Metallica. So that's always, good, and especially it's in the summer, so that'll be a good beach day.
Do you have any other plans for the future?
Oh, there are so many plans that you have for the future, but sometimes it's you have to actually do stuff day to day and concentrate on what you think is important in your life, and hopefully the future will come the way you dreamt it or imagined it. Moonspell could do so much. We want to tour places we've never gone to before, like Australia or Japan. We've talked about going to China. A lot of people are starting to, want to hear music live, and something that I think they should. And anywhere that there's, music or metal, we're definitely keen on going. And just trying to be the most balanced, person, artist, musician, whatever, that one can. And I think the future will be cool.
That's all I had planned. Is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion?
I'd just like to thank you again for the opportunity to talk about Moonspell and what we're up to and what we're doing. Just hope to see everybody as much as possible live, and that we finally accomplish a good American tour. It's been a while since we've done something cool, since the Old Path tour and Type of Negative tour in 2004. Last year we were there with Catatonia. It was also an awesome show, but we didn't get to as much people as one would wish. So, but little or small, we always give our best. So all the best from Portugal, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks.